And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hey, how you doing there? Hey, hi, what's up? I'm Warren. Welcome to another edition of the big weekly review that I do, breaking down the previous night's episode of AEW Dynamite. Now, if you have the benefit of video right now, you are noticing that I am at the desk. I am not in the usual armchair over there in the back. I'm at my usual spot, which means for regulars of the show, they know what this means. This means that I am, as opposed to what I usually do, recording this review immediately after Dynamite on Wednesday nights. You know, most of the time, not even most of the time, all the time, I prefer to watch the show, take my notes down, go have a good night's sleep on it all, and then wake up the next morning to see essentially, like mostly, do I still feel the same way about how I felt about, you know, everything that went on, all the things that maybe got me really excited or irked me, or, you know, do I have the same quibbles or, you know, all of that stuff. That's why I prefer to do you know, the next day. But circumstances happen, particularly when it comes to my work, to my day job, where I'm just like, listen, it's not, you know, if I don't do it on Wednesday evening, record it, put it out there, get it all ready to be released on Thursday, then it's just not happening. It's just not showing up. So, you know, I have to put my own desires and needs aside here to serve you, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show audience, which I adore because you are an A+ audience listening to this D-list podcast. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you all, just like I appreciated this edition of Dynamite, this Maximum Carnage show that happened at the Arizona Financial Theater in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm as enthusiastic as I was over the past couple of weeks, where I really felt like AEW had been really, really cooking. But listen, I think the show was very well bookended. We had a really fun opening match to kick things off, and we had an excellent main event to close off the show. I think there was a good balance there, and then in between, well, you know, might not have hit the highs of the mid cards that we've had over the past couple of weeks. Again, I particularly think of last week, where I thought the show was quite good, like quite excellent, a really top tier edition of Dynamite. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm necessarily down on this show. I just think it was. It wasn't a step in the same direction. I think that I don't know what it was exactly. There's matches that I felt like maybe the energy wasn't there. There's things that people were trying that weren't coming together. We'll talk about it in detail, but there's a lot more stuff that irked me this week, as opposed to things that got me really excited and wanted and warranted me to stand and pace around the room out of excitement. But there's one thing that I do think we need to point out, and that is a positive. Just like the past couple of weeks, the show, these Dynamites have been focused on wrestling, on letting the wrestling do the talking, as opposed to, you know, filling up shows with, you know, kooky, goofy segments that you're like, you're wondering where this is going, or some nonsensical backstage stuff, or, you know what I mean? Like we're far removed from true sports entertainment reflexes. Instead, AEW is focusing on what it does best, on the thing. Like I just hammer home as much as I can, the thing that truly differentiates themselves from the competition, from WWE, from TNA, from whoever else, and that is the wrestling. That's where it absolutely strikes a difference between the two, or the three, or whatever, between all of the other instances of sports entertainment, when AEW decides that it fills out a show with wrestling, good wrestling and great wrestling, even excellent wrestling like we got tonight. That's what gives it its entire color. That's how you see that you're getting something different, something that feels unique and is not just a copy of the other guys and a bad copy of that, because why would you try to fight, the market leader in on the level that they work on and that they are best in, which is to provide a sports entertainment product. Again, not everything hit, but the efforts were there nonetheless. The structure was there nonetheless. And we're going to talk about it. I think this is my preamble, essentially. This is like my setup, right? Well, I've pretty much laid everything out as to how I felt about the show in a very macro sense. Now we're going to start digging in. But before we do anything else, we're going to head on over to WrestleTix to see how many people showed up for this show. Now, this is not the final count. This is the pre-show update that WrestleTix usually does. So I don't have the final count, obviously, because we usually get that one the next day on Thursday. So considering that, as it stands right now on Wednesday evening, 3,029 tickets were distributed for the show, which is fine, which is typical of what AEW should do. The last time that they were in this very venue was just a couple of months ago in February. 2,933 tickets were distributed, so we're really in the same vicinity. Like, it's not that big of a difference between the two. I mean, it is slightly higher here, but minimally higher, just a little blip higher. But again, we're still seeing this trend of better houses than the last time they were here, than the last time they showed up in the venue, in the town, in that venue. Whereas not that long ago, it was consistently the opposite, where the return Dynamite or Collision or whatever would always indicate that it would always have attendance arrows pointing downward. Now, even though the arrows are pointing up, and but pointing up very minimally, it's not even 100 tickets difference, at least as of now. The arrows are still pointing up. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that reversal of fortune for AEW. We're not patting each other on we're not patting ourselves on the back. It's not suddenly time to return to the basketball arenas. Absolutely not. I think the ticket buying consumer confidence is still a little shaky when it comes to the rank and file weekly tapings. And the show opens with Samoa Joe. He has a pre-tape promo earlier today, had some comments for the Hangman, calling him a fool, saying he wants to come after him, but the Ops have to prepare because they have a title match coming up on Maximum Carnage Collision. And so instead of going after Hangman himself, well, he's put out a bounty on his head. Seems to be a very popular thing in AEW these days. And the man who answered the call is the bounty hunter, Brian Keith, who pops on and cuts a quick promo reminiscing about his first encounter with Paige a couple of years ago, saying, "I'm not the same man." And we leave it at that. It was a nice little promo to get things going. That leads us into our first match of the night, where Darby Allin defeated Pac in a exactly the type of match you want to see from Darby Allin. Just him getting thrown around and, being put into positions where you're like, his body should not be doing this. This looks like it hurts. It is absolutely insane. The stuff that Pac has done to Darby on this night, or that Darby did to himself. Of course, Darby dives off a balcony into the audience, doing a coffin drop onto Pac on the floor, because there's a substantial part of this match that happens without the bell ringing, where because Pac comes to the ring and Darby's already in the ring. He's had his full presentation and everything. And as Pac is coming to the ring and telling the Death Riders, no, stay away. I'm going to do this by myself. As he hops over the barricade and starts jaw-jacking with the audience, Darby just suicide dives onto him, and the match starts that way, but not officially. They just brawl and they go into the audience. Darby does the coffin drop thing, and then they come back, and Pac, like the German suplexes Darby onto the floor at ringside, and then suplexes him directly onto the metal steps, but like literally on the side of the metal steps, which could not have felt good at all. It was just completely crazy. And then when the match actually starts, when they finally get into the ring, Pac is, he's throwing lariats, he's doing suplexes, he's getting all sorts of near falls, he's doing belly to belly, avalanche. He's doing avalanche belly to belly suplexes. That's what I wanted to say. German suplexes with bridge, and Darby's fighting back with coffin drops. Pac also hits a crazy razor's edge from the ring onto the ramp, coming to the ring, which was crazy. And then I'm having a great time. I'm really into this match and I'm enjoying it. Look, I'm a sucker for one of these Darby Allin matches where all he does is get thrown around. I don't know. I'm into it. every single time. But in this circumstance here, the finish sort of turned me off. It didn't do it for me. Right? It's Paul Turner gets yanked in front of Darby, who was attacking Pac in the corner, and so the referee, Paul Turner, by the way, gets knocked out, which then allows Wheeler Yuta to run to the ring to try to interfere, but Darby counters and gets rid of Yuta with a chair. He being Darby does the Scorpion Death drop on Pac, then uses the chair that Yuta brought to the ring to Pillmanize Pac's ankle, which Pac had landed funny on during the match, which allowed an opening for Darby to go after Pac and get some kind of offense in, because Pac was extremely dominant throughout the match. And so, so this ties into the end where the ankle is being Pillmanized. Last week, Darby threatened to snap the ankle. So we're just following through on the thread, essentially. There's all this connection here. It's the ankle that Pac had got injured and had taken him out for a while. So there we go. We get the coffin drop Pillmanizing of Pac's ankle, and then Darby does the sharpshooter, the Scorpion Deathlock, and Pac then taps. So there you go. Darby Allin has officially defeated every member of the Death Riders. I guess we're ready to move on now. I sure am. And to be fair, in this circumstance here, everyone was there of the Death Riders to send Pac off to his match, including Jon Moxley. Like everyone, the whole team was there. I still don't see all these circumstances that that fans had decided that the Death Riders are going to turn on Mox. I don't see it. I didn't see it to begin with. I think there was a lot of people doing a lot of Zapruder film, breaking down and looking for little elements, kind of like the people from the people from the Stranger Things Reddit, who thought that there was going to be an extra like hidden episode that was going to be better of Stranger Things, that was going to be better than the series finale that they got. Because now they started seeing all these clues everywhere. They started picking up clues. They thought like on January, what was it? Like, I don't know if any of you have seen or heard about this. A lot of these Reddit fans had started a conspiracy theory, or it's not a conspiracy theory, but a theory that the Duffer Brothers actually had another episode of Stranger Things in the can to sort of rectify everything that happened in the extremely mid finale, which is preposterous, right? Why not just air your final episode? Why not just air this excellent episode as your final episode? Why are you trying to hide it? It makes no sense. But nonetheless, this theory sort of caught fire and people were really believing it. There was even a hashtag for it, which I can't recall off the top of my head. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were seeing things like the science teacher, the high school science teacher, was standing in front of a clock. The clock read 107. So that's why people were, January 7, you see, there's going to be something. And they thought that, it was like, it was like that guy with the Noah's Ark, the flood, right? Recently, like just before Christmas, and the Mayan apocalypse back, what was it, in 2012? They all thought that something big was going to happen on January 7th. Nothing happened. Nothing, the show just came to an end. So, sometimes I feel like the AEW fans are like that, where they just pour over all of these details, and you're like, is this really what we're doing? Because it's the level of digging that we're doing is ridiculous. I don't see the signs of a turn, and maybe that's what's going to make it so good if it does happen, because it's not an obvious pro wrestling turn, right? But I don't see anything right now, and even in the way that things are booked, I don't see Jon Moxley being turned on by the rest of the Death Riders. And I know everyone says, oh, well, Claudio can be the leader. Oh, well, Pac will be the leader. But these are not main event figureheads like Jon Moxley. The leader of the Death Riders can't be a guy who is associated with the mid-card, because then the Death Riders become completely mid-card people. If you have someone jump in to take the spot, like I had posited at some point that maybe, if we're going on all these theories, maybe Swerve Strickland would be the guy, because Swerve wants to, he's the most dangerous man in AEW and whatnot, and you got to be careful because he could betray you and so on and so forth. I'm like, maybe he could be the guy, but I honestly don't know who it is. I don't know who could take the spot, and I don't think Claudio is the guy, and I don't think Pac is the guy either. I don't think they come across as leaders, top guys to be the figurehead of a group moving forward. It'll just be very strange. Now, the thing that I do believe that AEW is going to have to address at some point is how Mox right now is booked as a babyface, maybe a reluctant one, but a babyface nonetheless, and the rest of the Death Riders are clearly still positioned as heels. This is the biggest light that is shining on the possibility of the Death Riders all turning on Mox, because they're unaligned now. They're not. Mox's alignment has changed from neutral evil to maybe just true neutral or chaotic neutral. I don't know. But they're not as aligned as they once were. So that might lead to a schism. But at the same time, I really don't see it. I still fail to see it. Anyway, I've spent a lot of time talking on something that didn't even have any real incidents on the show when we've got some more juicier bits to get into. But look, ultimately, I just wanted to point out that everyone was there and everyone was very supportive of Pac, and there you go. That leads us to our next match, which was Hangman Adam Page defeating Brian Keith. This was not a squash. This actually crossed over a commercial. This is a pretty good little match. I thought it was a strong match that the two guys had with each other. By the way, I gave 3 3/4 stars to Pac versus Darby, and in this case, Hangman versus Brian Keith. I'll give it a 3 1/4. Solid match, well done. Hangman Hangman was played the former champion, top guy role perfectly here, but gave enough for Brian Keith to have some moments to shine here as well. Brian Keith is a very good wrestler. At some point, I guess I'd like to see a circumstance in which Brian Keith is really allowed to stretch his legs and really go crazy. They're still doing the alliance with Big Bill, because Big Bill accompanied him to ringside. He even got interfered into the match, but Swerve Strickland showed up to dispatch Big Bill to allow Hangman Page to hit the buckshot lariat and get the win. After the match, Hangman Page mocks Brian Keith, tells him that he's a dumbass, and then calls out Samoa Joe and basically saying, why don't you come fight me instead of hiding behind bounties? And then Swerve Strickland then grabs the microphone and calls out MJF, stating his goal to reclaim the AEW World Title, basically saying that both he and Page are on this warpath, and they both want a shot at the title, which then leads to Kenny Omega's music hitting to unquestionably the biggest reaction of the night, the biggest pop of the entire night. And he hits the ring, and in a very good Kenny promo, I gotta say, he declares his intention to pursue the title in exchanging respectful words with Adam Page, and not entirely ignoring Swerve, but you can tell there's history between Kenny and the Hangman, and he was comfortable with that. And Swerve was side-eyeing him the whole way, was giving him a little stink eye, I would even say. Came up at the end at the end of the promo to measure up to old Kenny, and just walked away peacefully. But while Hangman basically extended a hand and say, if I ever have to meet you on the way to the World Championship, may the best man win, and they shake each other's hands, and it's very respectful, but didn't get that with Swerve. Now, in this whole situation, before we move on to the rest, because there's another part here, of course, with Don Callis that we'll get to in a second, what I enjoy in all of this circumstance here is that AEW is establishing the fact that, these guys are the champions. They're the big dogs, they're former champions. They're the big dogs of the promotion, but they have to earn their spots. Kenny said it himself, you can't just be an EVP and then snap your fingers and give yourself a world title shot. That's not how it works here. I've got to wrestle. I've got to collect some wins. So what did he say? So my record is sparkling clean, something to that effect. A very Kenny Omega way of putting things. But I really do appreciate that. This is a situation where these three guys are in. Now, you can argue that Hangman and Strickland over the past couple of weeks have been working on getting those wins, mostly as a tandem, but they've already been on this path, and Kenny still has to kick off, and that's fine. So they probably have, I would argue that they have a bit of a head start on Kenny Omega. Now, the thing is, if we still had rankings, we wouldn't be necessarily thinking about how all of this is going to come together. It would be very visual and would make a lot of sense. I think things would fall into place very quickly if the rankings were still there. Look, I love this shit. I love this kind of stuff so much because it is the easiest way to just book pro wrestling, and that is to do things that have been successful in pro wrestling for decades and just allow them to be executed in that manner. Now, I think the rankings were a boon to that. I know somehow it broke a lot of people's brains who didn't understand how rankings worked. I don't know. I don't watch professional sports, but I understand how rankings work. So, I was able to follow along, and it's a great storytelling device. It helps the audience get to understand and see patterns, see where you're going with things. Of course, then it turns into idiot arguments online as to whether or not, FTR should be at the number one contender or not, all this fucking bullshit, right? It's almost as if the rankings were a boon to the booking, as opposed to being some kind of crutch, which a lot of people thought they were. Oh, they're just a crutch and so on and so forth. But no, see, if you keep things simple like this, it's like, I got to rack up some wins because I want the title. All three of these guys. To me, this is exciting. And it's something, again, that the other guys can't do, because it's only one guy at a time who chases a title in the other company. You can't have multiple people who have their eyes on the big prize. It's only one at a time. And if a program lasts three pay-per-view cycles, well, it's going to be that one guy for 3 pay-per-view cycles, and no one else is going to be injected into this. And if someone else is injected into it, then that means that we're going to the dreaded triple threat match. Or worse yet, the fatal 4-way. Whereas in this circumstance, in these types of situations, you're just letting pro wrestlers be pro wrestlers. You're letting the sport tell its stories. Clear, simple to follow, uncomplicated. But all these writers, these producers, these people who put all these matches together and come up with all these great ideas, all these people that are paid for these ideas, well, they can't sit around and say, well, why don't we just do rankings? And because they have to justify their salary. They have to come up with great ideas or great angles, great character work. Otherwise, their jobs are useless. And yet, everything that I've been seeing about AEW recently is just going back to basics. And year after year, the Continental Classic proves that a back to basics approach is functional and is successful. And most importantly, the audience gets into it. I guess that would be part of your success, but bear with me here. The idea is that the wrestling audience is not as dumb as people purport it to be. If you just go ahead and provide a really compelling and clear and well communicated sports environment, they'll get into it and they'll understand it, especially with the fucking level of talent that you have in this company. So, that's my thing. Like the Continental Classic, the last 3 weeks of Dynamite, to me, the story is the story of the past few weeks at least like month and a half at this point of AEW wrestling, particularly on Dynamite, is very simple. Stick to the basics. Don't try to complexify or make things, goofy or try to be too cute, because that's when you fall on your face. And you're truly at your best when you're able to focus on the sports elements as opposed to the entertainment elements. Anyway, moving on. After Hangman and Swerve Strickland leave the ring and leave Kenny alone in it, the Don Callis family comes out. At least a few members. Don Callis is there, flanked by Rocky Romero, Lance Archer, and Josh Alexander. Kenny is none too pleased. Of course, we got some long-standing bad blood between him and Kenny Omega and Don Callis, excuse me. And basically, Don Callis ends up offering Josh Alexander versus Kenny Omega. Kenny's ready to go tonight. Like, he's fired up. This was a very good high-level Kenny Omega promo, where he has all his little quirks and idiosyncrasies, but mostly is conveyed with fire, with something burning in his belly, as opposed to being, laid back and saying his lines and, being semi-ironic. You're not quite sure how invested he is in it. Now he was invested. He was super into it. The crowd was super into everything he was saying as well. So he's ready to go. He's basically unbuttoning the sleeves of his shirt. But and so is Josh Alexander, for that matter. He's like, all right, brother, let's go. But Don Callis steps in. He's like, no, not tonight. We're doing it next week on Dynamite, which got huge boos from the crowd. People want to see Kenny Omega wrestle. Imagine that. Imagine after all this time, people want to see Kenny Omega wrestle. But it's like I've been saying, I think Kenny has been missing from AEW, not just the fact that he hasn't been around. Even when he's been around, in the moments that he has been in 2025, he's never been part of the fabric of AEW. Like, you felt like he wasn't part of the fabric anymore. Now, with that promo that he cut tonight, with the investment that he's putting into wanting to become world champion again, he's convinced me that he just might be the guy to take the title off of MJF. There's enough here being put down where I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm curious to see how they're going to book this, because I can buy it and I would be into it. Especially with this Kenny Omega, who is himself into it. This was very good. This was an excellent segment, completely driven home by Kenny. And as I said last week, I think the Swerve Hangman stuff has run its course, and it is time for something else to happen. And they both seem very cordial over the idea that they're both going to go for the title. I would really like one of these two guys to get really annoyed at the other and say, no, I'm going for it. No, just get the egos involved. Because at this point, I think they are much more interesting at odds with each other than being chums, than watching each other's back. That I think is much less interesting. But anyway, so nothing really happened. I want something to happen. I want something to click here where these two guys are suddenly gonna get some tension going, because that's where it's interesting. It was fun to see them as partners, I guess, as truly like the mega powers, right? But it's not all that interesting. It's not all that great. Anyway, moving on. Renee Paquette is backstage. She's interviewing Brody King, who runs into John Cruz and who starts getting into Brody King's face, which is completely ill-advised. And then Brody says, hey, you know what? I have a standby match coming up, and you're going to be my opponent. John Cruz, of course, very panicked about that. But that leads to the match here where Brody King essentially just squashes John Cruz, who's, trying to do missile drop kicks and, all splashes, I should say, top rope splashes and all sorts of shit. But Brody just no-sells everything and lands the Gonzo bomb for the win. I like that. I like the idea of the, I really, really like the idea of the standby match, as if, oh shit, well, the Darby Pac match ended a little earlier than we thought. So we got to throw out the standby match, and Brody was on the standby and he got the pick of his opponent. I like that. Like that. See, again, you're just working in real concrete measurable things that just make sense. And it just, for me, it just elevates everything. Then I'm like, now I feel like I'm watching a show where anything can happen, right? Because you got to, Brody King was not announced, so got to throw him in there. Got to throw him in there. He was ready, standing by. He was the standby match. There we go. That's what a standby match is for. It's fantastic. It's these little things, these little storytelling elements that make sense in any professional wrestling organization. I love this stuff. That's truly excellent. And we're continuing with Brody getting squashes. We're continuing to heat up Brody, and I'm still wondering why. Week after week, Brody he's either getting hype reels or he's getting squashes. So we're building something for Brody. I don't know what kind of push we're building towards. But we're definitely on our way to something. And after the match, really quickly, of course, Brody King addresses Bandito, saying, basically offering him support heading into his world title match later on against MJF. And into another match. See, no bullshit. We're just rocking and rolling. The segment we had one segment so far, and it was great. And now we're just rolling on match and match and match. And now we got the Men's World Tag Team Championship #1 contenders tornado match where Doyle and Davis, that's right, Mark Davis and Jake Doyle, they are known as Doyle and Davis, and hot diggity damn, do I fucking love that name. You got the alliteration, 2 short names, 2 names that feel big, 2 guys that they look the same in black trunks coming out. Fuck yeah. What more do you want? This rules. Doyle and Davis. Look, I don't want to start fantasy booking in my head of all the great things that we should have them do because, they might just be relegated to nothing, very, very quickly. But holy moly, I only wish the best for this tag team. I hope they do get a push. Like if Brodito were still world champions and you had Mark Davis and Jake Doyle as #1 challengers, right? As the top guys coming after them. I can sincerely close my eyes and imagine the match, and I am so fucking into it. I am so into that match. Anyway, they defeated the Doyle and Davis. They defeated the Gates of Agony, Jet Speed, and the Young Bucks in a match that I thought was let me start over. This is a match that was meant to be the party match of the night. This was the one where people were going to be jumping around, hopping around, up and down, just bouncing off of ropes and, doing acrobatic shit and then being caught and then big power. It was going to be the party match. But I think they tried to be too cute in the first stretch of the match. Tried to be a little too cute, with the baby faces doing all of these similar moves on the bigger guys, all these tandem moves, these 4-way moves. I think they tried a little too much. And the things they tried didn't always land for multiple reasons. Sometimes they just, they were out of sync. Like these things really have to be synced up for them to truly get reactions from the crowd. Or, they were just flubbed, or, just, I don't know. Like the entire first sequence of this match was very awkward and wasn't great. And then you turn around and you have Toa Leona in this match doing a moonsault off the apron to the floor, and the crowd is up on their feet because they're like, this guy should not be doing this. Like this guy's he's a powerhouse. He's a big dude. He shouldn't be doing Ricochet shit, right? So that caught everyone by surprise, and it was awesome. You see, you didn't have to necessarily do, 4-way tornado DDTs into poison ranas or whatever the fuck. I'm just throwing things around. Sometimes it's just the most simplest things. Again, sometimes it's the simplest things that work. Don't get me wrong. I love me a good party match like anyone else. There are always, especially in AEW, they're always a lot of fun. But here it didn't click. It just did not click. That's all there is to it. But Toa Leona, let me tell you, this is a guy whose stock has risen since feuding with the Hurt Syndicate, right? He was the guy who was mostly paired up with Bobby Lashley, if you remember, and Lashley would give him all sorts of offense. And I really think that this has carried over well. I think he's been booked the same way since, which is why when he did the fucking moonsault, people, sort of exploded, and he got a huge reaction because no one expected that. This is supposed to be the powerhouse. This is supposed to be the guy who runs you over like a Mack truck. He's not supposed to be flying through the air with the greatest of ease, you know? And I think this all goes back to the feud with the Hurt Syndicate, and just the continuous great effort there. He's been fantastic. Like, he has truly become much more of a standout than he was. He came out looking better than Bishop Khan, who I've always liked, but I always felt like Toa Liona was a little in Bishop Khan's shadow. Now you kind of feel like it's the opposite. I hope they're not listening, and then, I'm going to create some kind of rivalry between the two. I'm just calling it as I sees it. Anyway, the Bucks, like, once we got out of that first period, everyone started looking really good. Look, that Ultimo weapon that Speedball did as Toa Liona was carrying both of the Bucks on his shoulders was absolutely phenomenal. That was great stuff. And, things started to pick up and things were connecting. And I was surprised as hell when Doyle and Davis got the win with Mark Davis's yank up pile driver, which is astounding to me. It's still a great move. Oh, and Ricochet got involved as well, pulling the ref out of the ring. And I was like, oh, the ref is going to call a DQ now, right? But no, there's no DQs in this type of match, I think, because no DQs were called, right? That happened. What was it, like last week? Ref gets pulled out of the ring and he calls the disqualification. Was on Wheeler Yuta, right? During the Marina Shafir, Tony Storm stuff. I swear I'm keeping an eye on it. Here, I'm not quite sure what the tornado tag rules are like. Can you call a DQ in a tornado tag match? Probably, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm not going to complain about this and say, oh, well, you do it one week, because I will remind you what I said last week when that happened, when Paul Turner called for the DQ after being dragged out of the ring. I said, look, for all the times that it never happened in the past, if we do it now, that means this becomes the rule moving forward. That means every time this happens moving forward, I got to see a DQ. Well, we'll see. I'm not confident it's going to be that, but nonetheless, just keep some things consistent. So after the match, FTR come out with Stokes still in his wheelchair, and they come out to confront Doyle and Davis and Doyle. They stand nose to nose, and I'm ready for this match. This is going to rule. Like, this is good. This is good. I think this is a great use of both those guys. It's going to be a good defense from FTR. Like, this should be just, some good old fashioned brawling. Dax is going to be into it. Probably to convince Tony to get some color in here as well. Jake Doyle is no stranger to that either. Oh, I'm super duper looking forward to this. This is awesome. This is good stuff. Match, I gave it the gentleman's 3, because I think they worked hard enough after everything to pick things up. Next, Excalibur memorializes Bob Weir, guitarist and founding member of the Grateful Dead, which I was kind of wondering what was this all about, but apparently he had a very close connection with Tony Khan, which was, again, very surprising to me. I guess it meant a lot for Tony to note that, and the passing of truly one of the greats and a member of one of the greatest bands, rock bands of all time. Next, we have a backstage promo with Sky Flight. Everyone is there: Scorpio Sky, the Martins, Christopher Daniels, and Zeta Steel, who's filling in for Layla Gray, I guess, while Layla Gray is out with injury. She joined the team. I can't remember if it was on Collision or Ring of Honor. I don't remember. I think it was on Collision that she joined up with the Sky Flight, or maybe it was on Ring of Honor. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. She's with Sky Flight right now officially. Cuts a promo reminiscent that sort of pokes a little fun at Marina Shafir's legendary terrible promo. Like, okay, all right. And they want to set something up with the boys, with the Darius boys, and the Don Callis family, which is fine. I still think Darius Martin should be. More things should be done with Darius Martin. I still don't understand why they're still in this position where they're like still considered to be like, rookies, young guys, when they've been around in this company practically from day one, if not since day one, very close to day one. I can't quite recall, but they've been in this company for years. Like these, they're not like new commodities. Plus, the AEW audience really, really likes Dante. They really, really like Dante Martin. So, what did I say? Talking about Darius, I meant Dante specifically. I think that I'm cold on Darius right now, but still very high on Dante for obvious reasons. Anyway, moving on. The next match we got was the Babes of Wrath and Chris Statlander taking on the Triangle of Madness. In fact, the Triangle of Madness defeated the babyface team on this one here. Look, I don't know. I don't think Harley Cameron was any good during this match tonight. There's instances where she does have flashes, where there's moments where you're like, oh, okay, there's something. Yeah, okay, I see. Oh, she's okay. Where you're like, she's still green, but you can still see stuff coming together and whatnot. I felt she was just like flopping around. A couple of sling blades that she pulled in this match. Like I am assuming they were sling blades, because I'm not sure exactly what she was doing. They weren't connecting. They looked terrible. I don't know. I know a lot of people really, really like Harley Cameron, and I can understand why. I like Harley enough. I think that Harley is legitimately funny. She's extremely entertaining and talented. But man, like there's stuff in these wrestling matches where I'm like, holy smokes. And I mean, she's a good Ricky Morton. She's sitting around in the match, eating shit, taking all the bumps. That's a perfect role for her to get the hot tag to Willow, and then Willow comes in and cleans house. Willow's a great pro wrestler. She's super solid. She's a great pro wrestler. That's all I really need to say. And I guess everyone was all right, but this is a match that felt slow. It felt disjointed a little, like everyone was kind of disconnected with each other. I watched the warm-up match for the Babes of Wrath and Chris Statlander on Collision, which was against High-End Maya World and Vert Vixen, right? AEW Dark Stalwart Vert Vixen, and it was essentially a squash match, but it was better. It was essentially an enhancement match, but it was I thought it was better than this. I don't know, like I'd give it maybe 2 3/4 stars. I wouldn't necessarily call it good. It wasn't terrible. It was just like a bog standard, very average, nondescript professional wrestling match. I don't know. They did do an effort though to set something up between Chris Statlander and Tekla, which I'm very interested in. Tekla got the pin on Chris Statlander, which is of course the sign that we're really going towards this direction. I'm into it. I think Tekla has turned out to be a surprisingly solid addition, and I say surprisingly not because I thought she stunk, but because I was concerned that she wouldn't be able to translate well onto American primetime pro wrestling, but seamless. She's been tremendous. It's and has only become more confident. Has shown off that she can talk. No, like she's carrying this Triangle of Madness stuff on her back. She's tremendous. So I'm interested. I'm interested in Statlander versus Tekla. This is a good potential match here. I'm looking forward to it. Renee Paquette is with Jet Speed backstage. They're sort of bummed out that they lost, but then Swerve Strickland shows up to sort of give them a pep talk, saying, as Speedball, we've toured together, we've torn up the scene across the world, and Kevin Knight, you're the future of the business. Then he hits the bricks, and then Hangman Page shows up, and he basically says, he gasses them up, gets really, really intense, wakes the crowd up at the same time by cutting a really excited promo as he invites Jet Speed to join him as a trio to take on the Ops. And I'm like, okay, well, you could do a lot worse. That could be that could be fun. It could also be a very fun trio at the same time. So if you did want to continue down that route, and that's going to be a match on Collision this week. This Collision looking really solid. And then probably the biggest surprise of the night, we get a little video stinger, a bumper. I don't know exactly, more of a bumper than a stinger. That announcing that the Rascals have signed with AEW. They've got a little logo and everything. A goofy looking mushroom, of course, because I guess these guys are still not sober. Desmond Xavier, Zachary Wentz, Myron Reed, and Trey Miguel, all four of them heading on over to AEW. An interesting couple of months contract-wise for these guys. I'll probably talk more about it on stream later tonight. I will be streaming. If you're listening to this on Thursday, I will be doing my usual Thursday night live stream on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So be sure to be there. And I'll probably talk about that a little more. But listen, I think there's still a lot of excitement to get out of these four guys. I'll go more in depth in it, but you could do a lot worse than signing these four dudes here. And if you wanted to light up your trios division and maybe have some, a group of guys who could absolutely live up to the expectation, I guess, as to what a trios division should be, these are your dudes to lean in on. And I mean, look, it's cool and all that they all came in as a stable at the same time. I would assume that they came in as a package deal. That would be my guess. It's all for one for all. They tried going separate ways, and it just didn't work out the way that any of them thought it would be. I would assume once they all, once everything sort of got split apart. So, I mean, look, these are all really talented pro wrestlers nonetheless. Let's see what they got. Let's see what they can bring to the table in AEW. I would have, at the very least, kicked the tires on them. But okay, they had the in. They had the in to go for it. So it's exciting. Good for them. Getting out of TNA. There's a lot of stuff that we still have to think about. That we can still discuss when it comes to what's going on exactly with TNA and the divestment of all this talent. If, I'll leave it like this. And again, we'll probably talk about it more on stream, but, for a company who just had a media deal, they don't seem to be flush with money. Cutting all of these contracts, not renewing a bunch of these contracts, it doesn't seem like, nonetheless, it's this environment where everyone is just like that, where TNA is flush with cash. I'm just saying. And then the main event, the excellent main event, where MJF successfully retained the AEW Men's World Championship against Bandito. This was so good. I like this match a lot. I loved this match. It was so much. It was just, again, a simple match. Clear babyface, clear heel, where the babyface is doing, great stuff at the start, trying to get the upper hand, and then all the heel does to turn the tables is a poke to the eye. And MJF's working of the crowd, I thought, was spot on great. MJF has to revert to working over Bandito's arm to slow the pace to get one up on Bandito. Bandito rallies. He does dives and power moves. There's a bunch of near falls. There's a really fun little segment where they're cradling back and forth with pinfalls that the audience gets really into as well. Shooting star press by Bandito as well in this match, which was tremendous. And of course, that one spot where Bandito does a body splash off the turnbuckle right into the audience where MJF was, like over the barricade. Like he flew right out there onto Max, which was absolutely phenomenal stuff. And Max is a great base for him at the same time. Max is so good because Bandito is able to pull off all sorts of really great shit, while Max is just is so solid in what he does. And they really did go for a lucha libre style finish where they build to the moment where both guys are trying to land big power moves, go for a cover. One guy kicks out. Sure, they had the cradling, and whatnot. And it's a submission that wins it, right? Look, it's not a submission that instantly calls for the match, which is like in CMLL, that typically instantly closes a match. Most of the time, Bandito, when he got into the Salt of the Earth, started to struggle. Max transitioned out of that with a label lock, and eventually just Bandito just passed out. He couldn't take it anymore. I thought it was simple, well done, well executed, well put together match that made so much sense and had great athleticism throughout. Great work, great story, great drama. What more do you want out of your pro wrestling? This is a 4-star match for me. I'm just embarrassed that MJF, aka Big Hebrew, I'm just disappointed that he didn't finish the match in 1 minute and 15 seconds like he promised. It's like I was still thinking about because he had tweeted that saying, I'm going to beat Bandito in 1 minute and 15 seconds. I don't care about your 5-star matches. And I was still thinking, would they dare do that? Because that would be some fucking bold booking, but they didn't. It's fine. And honestly, it's probably for the best. And then after the match, MJF actually praises Bandito, which is interesting. Is this a way for MJF to sort of show the audience who somehow believes that he truly is an edgy scumbag in real life, to show that no, like he is capable of showing some respect? Because he essentially tells Bandito, look, it pains me to say this, but you're going to be a world champion, an AEW world champion someday. But then he uses that as an excuse then to attack Bandito. He says, well, belt, crack the belt across his skull, and then threaten to unmask Bandito as well. But Brody King runs in for the save, which I guess sort of maybe lays the groundwork for Brody King versus MJF, which would explain why Brody has been getting all of this, has been getting warmed up so much on AEW television recently. Maybe would that be the next step? I'd be interested in that match as well. I'd be very, very interested to see how that goes. But I thought this was excellent. I just hope, because I haven't been online looking at stuff. Obviously, I've been recording this, but hopefully, the people who hopefully the people who constantly complain about MJF are able to see this for what it was and see the performance that MJF put on, as well as Bandito, and give him some credit. But I'm not holding my breath. So there you go. Again, a very good episode of Dynamite, which was very easy breezy, and I think it was very good because look, excellent start to the show. Excellent finish to the show. There's the great segment after the Hangman match, particularly carried by fired up Kenny Omega, which is so good, so refreshing, so fun to see. I think it made a lot of sense. I think all the stories that they're putting together, they all make sense, even if some matches in the mid card in the middle of the show didn't quite deliver. You're getting some, at the very least, it all set up some stuff to look forward to. So it's just bare bones, simple, enjoyable pro wrestling. I don't know. On that front, to me, it's a home run. It will not be remembered as the greatest Dynamite of all time, but Jesus, I'd be lying if stuff just didn't make sense and didn't and the stories that they were establishing weren't leading to things, directions that you were like, oh, this is interesting, and all done in a way that only AEW can do it. So what more do you want? On that note, we are going to wrap up this week's Dynamite review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. If you did like it, leave a like here on YouTube, or a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, or a 5-star rating on Spotify. As I mentioned previously, I will be back tonight, if you're listening to this on Thursday, with another live stream on the YouTube channel. And by the way, we are going to be watching TNA's first show on AMC. I mean, it's a big event. It's, you got to see it with your own eyes. You got to see what they have to offer. Hey, who knows? Maybe it'll be good. Other than that, look, Mr. Warren Hayes will be back next week. There'll be live streams and everything, and the Dynamite review next Thursday as well. So there you have it. Thank you all again very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.